They approached Zions Bank about the impact fees, and Zions Bank decided to review all of the impact fees, not just the ones for parks.
Oh, wow.
And they just barely got their figures back to the city, and they still need to meet. Camden and David, I believe, still need to meet with Zions Bank to discuss the figures they came up with as far as impact fees go. So I think we're done with the updates. All of the impact fees, not just the ones for parks. And they just barely got their figures. I'm echoing. Anyway, I think we're done with the map and the document. It's just those figures need to be added in and then updated for the impact fees for parks and open space. In fact, I probably need to open that. Hi, Jason. Okay, we're live, even though it looks like we're live on YouTube, even though the meeting hasn't started.
Yeah, that's me, Scott. I don't know how to
That's fine.
slow that down. So I could start it over, but that would probably take me a second.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Is there anything else you want me to show on my screen, Scott, or do you screen share? What would you like?
No, I'm just going to go over, we'll stick pretty much to the agenda. We'll get the minutes approved once we get enough voting members. We'll table the update, and then I'll read. I have Camden's explanation, the delay to the master plan, so we'll table that. I think it'll be ready to go with the corrected impact fee figures in January. And then we'll just discuss the prioritized list. So I'm hoping the meeting doesn't take too long. And then is there a way to show the top 3 or 4 according to the survey?
Yeah, I think what I could do is pull up his email.
Okay.
Can you see, what does that one do for you? Does that show you the email? No?
Yes, it does. It does show me.
So I think, is that what you're thinking? That list there?
Yeah, so the way I read that, the trail expansion is number one, the boat harbor subsidies 2.
No,
Whip,
No, the number 1 would be 15 points for art die,
okay, points, okay.
13 points for pickleball, 13 points for playground. And then I think it kind of went to a tie after that.
yeah.
Okay. So if we look at the top 6, it does include the boat harbor, the trail, and the whip bit and Aqua Climb for the pool.
Yeah,
Because those are the next 3.
yeah, those top 3 there.
Well, we'll see who else gets on. I sent out a reminder to everybody earlier today.
Yeah, I saw that.
Well, last night at the council meeting, they wanted to know what the committee thought about the 4.2 acres. Should we pursue it? Should we study it?
Oh, I don't know. I think it'd be worth pursuing, but I don't think, last time we met, nobody had identified how much of that property is considered wetlands.
Yeah. So I think that's the next step in studying and getting the full information.
Yeah.
I know one of the discussions was probably a lot of it would be wetlands, which would allow us to maybe do a wetland mitigation swap to make some of that property up by Mountain Meadows more usable. So
Yep.
I think that was one of the thoughts.
Yeah, that's the direction I think we should go, but we'll see what the other committee members think. But yeah, I think it's worth pursuing if it looks like that could be done. And I still think David said that if we do it up front with the Army Corps of Engineers, they'll do a 1-for-1 trade as opposed to us getting the short end in some kind of land swap.
Hi guys, sorry, I just got on. So if you're trying to get committee input, let me know what the question was.
Oh, okay. You're the second one on, Lisa.
Okay,
How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Good. So are we so far.
I'll just let you know I'm trying to recover from surgery. So if I fade out, I'll just say, gotta go.
Okay.
See you next year or something.
Hey Scott, I just texted Rosanna. Do you have Peter or Nathan's phone number?
Yes, actually I do. I'll text them right now.
Lisa, I know you're looking forward to Christmas and the holidays, but put on your calendar right after that, it's time to talk baseball 2021.
Baseball.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Hey, I was just gonna ask really quick. We're not on YouTube, right?
We
Yet?
are,
Yes.
sorry.
Oh, hi everyone. Never mind.
I don't, maybe I could pause recording, Scott. Let me take a look. I don't know. Pause.
Yeah, we haven't started yet. If you can pause, that would be great.
Pause share.
There, I just text him.
Derek, did you pause or no?
That's a good question.
Okay.
All I can see at the top of my screen is live on YouTube. So I'm not sure it indicates on our screens whether it's paused or not. There, Melissa's just going to get on here in a second. I haven't got a response back from Peter or there's Nathan. He's on his way home. He'll be on soon.
And Peter's on.
Okay.
And Melissa.
Okay. Well, I guess you can unpause this
Okay,
if you got us paused. Are we rolling?
we're rolling.
All right. Welcome everybody to tonight's Parks and Recreation Committee meeting. Let's see, I'm Scott Radebush, the chair of the committee, and we have present the citizens committee members of Peter Jones, Melissa Hendershot, Lisa Birkland. I'm not sure if Roseanne is on yet. All I can see is you, Derek. So, and I know Nathan Nye will be getting on, or at least that's what he indicated. Welcome everybody. Let's see. So we have enough voting members. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
I motion. Okay. I second.
Okay, can somebody take minutes this meeting? So we can keep a track of who motioned, who second.
Yeah, I can. Let me go grab some paper. Oh, you got it, Melissa?
Thank you. And then all in favor? Aye. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that was unanimous. All right, I have something here from Camden. Camden can't be here tonight. The city's kind of having their, well, the Parks and Rec department, and I think other departments are having their Christmas party. And he talked to me earlier, well, later yesterday about this. And he also gave me this information concerning the master plan and final approval. Zions Bank, who helps them with the impact fee updates, only got their information back as far as the park impact fee to the city. Just, I think it was on Monday. And once they got the impact fee updates, they need to go through it and meet with Zions Bank to go over the figures they came up with. So I think the document in and of itself is complete. We just need to have the corrected figures in that document for the park impact fees correct before we can make it final and pass it on to the city council. So we're going to table the second item on the agenda. We passed the minutes. We're going to table the final approval of the update on the master plan and the map that we went over. Then finally, I think everybody participated on the survey that Camden sent out. You should see that on your screen, computer screen. We have another screen, or Derek has another screen he can show that kind of shows the final layout of prioritized projects that we can discuss. And I know he included the Parks and Rec staff that we meet with. And I think Barbara participated also, just for an equal input of city and citizen members, or citizen members of the committee, and then the city employees that give us input. So Derek, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so can you guys see the park project survey responses? Is that what's showing you?
Yes.
Okay, so Camden sent that out. He took the ideas from this committee and things that he and Jason and I had talked about that would be potential projects, and wanted to get kind of a consensus or direction and provide some input to the committee of what projects they would want to support the city applying for funding for through the PARC. So he asked people to rank their top 4 projects, and then he gave them values and scores. So there were 8 participants in it, and you can see how they were ranked, the different rankings. And then I'll share this. Does that show the email?
Yes.
Okay, so this was, he took that information as well and ranked them. The top 3 came out, and then there were 3 below that were tied. So if you look at the points, Art Dive Phase 3 received 15 points. Pickleball Courts received 13. Playgrounds received 13. And then there were 3 projects that received 6. The trail portion from Rotary to the boat harbor subsidy, and then the Wibbit and Aqua Climb for the pool. So those each received 6 points. So as far as a general ranking from the survey, that's where those came out.
All right. And I don't know, I think that's just the explanation that Camden put at the top of the email. So everything was considered. This is the result of the survey that Camden sent us all.
Can I ask a quick question, Scott?
Yeah.
The things that got 0 or 1, some of them are things that don't require maintenance, as far as like shade structures. Okay, I don't want to say we don't need them, but okay, we could leave that off the list. It got a 0. But something like Greenwood Park, oh, you know what? I read it as skate park. I'm so sorry. That says scoreboard. I was like, do we have to maintain some of these things? Do some of these things need money on there? Oh, thank you for my old eyes. Okay, never mind. I was just looking at some of these thinking, are some of these, even if we choose not to fund them, do they still need to be maintained somehow? Like a bathroom at Hunter Park, that's something new. So if we didn't approve that, it's not like it's there and needs to be maintained. But is there anything on here that needs to be maintained by the city that we need to support? Or are these all just new things?
I think the goal of the applications is new things. So new improvements for people to touch and feel and share and use and know about. One that is kind of a maintenance thing would be the disc golf improvements. We do have some conflict points up there that were brought up this past year where some holes need to be modified and some things do need to be changed to that. So that would be
For
an
safety
improvement,
and stuff?
but it would be a safety
Yeah,
maintenance
safety.
feature.
Okay, so just to make sure we, I guess, fund the things that, yeah, we need to maintain for safety.
Right, and I think, let's see. Yeah, the playground equipment was important because that's a safety issue.
And I know the PARC committee does like to fund some projects like that where, you know, pickleball courts are about 125,000, art dye 200,000, playgrounds 80 to 100. I do think they like to have some of those smaller amounts but impactful projects. So I think it would be worth looking at some of the smaller amounts too.
And just for clarification, I think Derek and Jason can help me with this, but the trail project has the range of 100,000 to 500,000. 100,000 would be roughly what it would take to go from Rotary Park out to First East to go under the overpass, and then the 500,000 would be more taking that from Rotary Park under the overpass along the frontage road to Boat Harbor Road, First West, right?
Yeah, that's my understanding. They created it that way. So I believe that's how it maps out.
On that topic, I think it would be good to just focus on that portion that goes along that frontage road, as I've mentioned in the past. If we could just focus on doing that, we can't do all of it. Let's focus on that portion and do the rest later. The rest of it has challenges beyond just the finances, I think, in that the city hasn't annexed that whole portion. Some of that's still county. And so, you know, getting the county to join in on that might be tricky. But if we could just focus on that portion, I think it'd be good. One of the things I wanted to say, I asked Camden to send out to help me understand, to get a better understanding of what has been done thus far for the PARC tax. And so he gave me that link that was very helpful. Was able to read the purpose of what the tax is for. A major thing on there is, or one of the things I itemized on there, it was for trails. I'm not sure if the park, I didn't see any items that had been done for the PARC tax that was a trail thus far. I haven't seen anything thus far for a trail. So I think a trail might and probably should be prioritized fairly high. Was $4 million had been given out thus far, but I haven't seen any of that go to, I mean, there's some areas that have gotten zero of that. One of those areas, of course, as I've mentioned, is southwest of the freeway. And so I think, and because of $4 million, zero has gone to that area, I think an increased emphasis should go to that area. I don't know what the population of that area is. I guess at least 10%, maybe more, which would suggest, based off if it was 10%, or maybe Derek, you could help me out with that number, what that percentage is. But whatever that percentage is, let's say 10%, 10% would be $400,000 on 4 million. And so there's an inequality there that could be addressed by the PARC committee as well. Did I go through on that? Did everyone hear? Sorry, Adam.
Yeah,
Not sure if
I could share maybe a thought. I can't speak on half of the PARC, but my experience applying and being in their meetings and things, I think it's part of what this committee is addressing regarding trails. I think there are kind of two things you asked about, Peter, was the trails and then the Southwest. Trying to find the trails is kind of a big, as we look at, 500,000 to get from Rotary to the boat harbor is kind of a big piece of pie. And so I think they've always looked at trails, but just haven't found the right segment that would be impactful that they could contribute money to. I don't think it's not that they haven't wanted to, it just hasn't, in the priorities and the amount of funding they have, it just hasn't happened. But, and doesn't mean it shouldn't or can't. I think it's just been, they only had so much money in the pie and they had to choose projects. And then just the commitment that we are, I would say, as I've talked with Jason and Camden, we're on board to see development in that area. And that's something that we know needs to happen. And there's a lot of conversations with David, watching, it's on our mind, on the front burner to make sure we're prepared to do that.
Yeah, and so to that point, I think maybe breaking that segment up, sure, $500,000 is tricky, but $100,000 seems doable, especially in comparison to many of these other items that we're voting on. I mean, a lot of these I see in the 200,000 range.
Yeah, and this, this might be, Barbara's still on, I think. And we were talking about this briefly before everybody else jumped on, but she can talk a little bit about city council meeting last night and the 4.2 acres down by the boat harbor.
Well, we just looked at the fact that we need to know more about it. We're going to plan a timeline so that perhaps by the end of January, we can tell the seller, potential seller, whether we're interested in it or not, so we can know what we're looking at. I also had a question about the trail. Since MAG works a lot with trails, do we have any possibility of getting any reimbursement from MAG for a portion of that trail?
Yeah, and that just reminds us that, not all of these projects, and especially not the land purchases, come directly or funded completely by the park tax. It's a combination. And the other thing is, I asked Derek, and it looks like some of that is wetlands. So up front, David told us we could get a 1-to-1 trade for the wetlands down at the boat harbor to reclaim more of the land up by Mountain Meadows to go south. So that could be expanded. And I think the question is just from the committee, and I think we've already conveyed this in the minutes of our meetings, but I think we're all supportive of the city pursuing that 4.2 acres down by the boat harbor, either to expand the boat harbor project or expand Mountain Meadows. Is that correct?
Correct. And
Correct.
it could be a combination of both too. There's a lot of possibilities.
Yes, yes. So I think so this can be stated in the minutes that we are all supportive of the city pursuing that land, and think it would be a good idea all the way around.
And
All right,
that's-
and then the
that's
portion,
direction they're heading.
say what?
That's the direction they're heading, is to pursue, to learn more about it, and to have a good idea by the end of January what we want to do.
Okay, and then you brought up MAG funding for, or additional funding for maybe the trail expansion. I understand the difficulty the city has, and maybe the park tax committee has, even the city council is, you know, we have bits and pieces of a trail, and Ken and I, and we've talked about this in previous meetings, where there's a really nice section from Center Street and Third North over to the river side trail, and then up to 7th North, and then it kind of dumps you into 7th North, and you don't know which way the trail goes. But there's bits and pieces of improved trail, and it's not something I think the city can succeed in doing if they say we're going to start here and then just move north. And I think, unfortunately, I think it'll be better served to do bits and pieces. Even though that doesn't make sense, in the long run, it's better to finish a portion that the city owns and doesn't have to worry about bartering with the county over ownership and things like that. It's going to be put together in pieces, and I'm supportive of going after, you know, whatever portion of that from Rotary Park to First West Boat Harbor Road. And I understand the $500,000 might not get approved, or probably predictably might not get approved by the park tax committee. But if we conveyed the importance of getting that trail, starting that trail to completion from Boat Harbor Road to Rotary Park, whatever portion that is, it would be a good start.
Maybe just a note, Barbara, on the MAG funding. The city is definitely in contact with them and involved in that application process. And I think, as Scott mentioned, putting it together in pieces is what's happening. We do have funding right now for 700 North to go, you know, north through Art Dye to connect to the Murdoch Trail. And so the county, as they fund it, they're looking for segments, you know, that makes sense to increase connectivity and usability. And so I see, as that network grows, MAG identifies those pieces that they think are ready and looks at how they can connect Utah County. And it will head towards, you know, head south towards the boat harbor. The county will be putting in that Lakeshore Trail, which will be significant, and they'll want us to connect to that. And so MAG, you know, it's going to take a lot of different resources, but connecting that in pieces, like Scott said, I think we're right on the verge of that. And then you connect to that green belt that goes along the connector. I think there will be a lot of trail activity.
I was just going to say, this would be a good year with the emphasis on the lake and the development there.
Yeah, we did last year. As I remember, we did as a group, we made the trail our #1 priority, and I don't think it was palatable enough to the PARC committee, because they looked at it as a $500,000 project. So this year, if we could piece that down and make it $100,000, or, you know, whatever, again, we might be able to go at that as our #1 and make it reasonable enough that it makes sense.
I think that's a good idea. And then by this time next year, maybe we will have land to work with to discuss park and amenities and improvements, at least land for a park down there, an expansion of Mountain Meadows, that we can look at using park or suggesting park tax be used for those expansions. So of those 6, we have the Art Dive Phase 3, the parking lot in the dog park. We have pickleball courts. We have the playgrounds, and then we have the trail, the boat harbor subsidy, and the Whitbit and Aqua Climb for the pool. From those 6, we can come up with a prioritized list and at least have 5, and we can list those as 5 or 6 that we would like to see funded.
I have a side question that I asked, but I didn't ask it in a way that was direct enough to get I didn't ask it very directly. Derek, and maybe Barbara, you might know this too. Do either one of you know what percentage of the population resides southwest of the freeway?
No. Not to put an actual figure on it.
It'd be something we could ask engineering
Yeah.
to calculate for us.
I think that would be interesting in some of our voting as well, is just understanding what that population represents, just as a side comment.
Do we know when the 2020 census information will be available?
That'll be tied up in the courts for probably another year or 2, possibly, because they still nationally they haven't defined, and that's going to court of what qualifies you to be a citizen and whether you should be counted or who should be counted in the census that just took place. I would say we're looking at 2022 before that's finalized, but that's an opinion. I just know it's tied up in the courts. And then I've heard, just in talking to people with maybe some knowledge, but it does need to be defined probably by the engineers. I've heard 5% on the low end and 10% on the high end as far as population of American Fork south of the freeway.
Okay, thanks, Scott. This is a
Yeah, so
ballpark.
that's in the ball. I mean, that's in the range I think we're talking about. So timelines for the park tax committee. When do proposals need to be prepared and given? What's the window, Derek?
I'm going to look at the exact dates. I believe it's typically the end of February, March. I think they do their presentation in the end of January, then open the applications, and then they need to be in by March. I can verify that real quick. So I think that's why you guys were meeting now, was just to kind of stay within that time frame.
So by our meeting in January, we'd have a definitive list that we would like to see go to the park tax committee, right?
Yeah. Looks like they haven't announced their dates yet, but
Okay.
that's what it was last year.
Okay. I can't imagine they'll bump them up. So sure, that's roughly, within a week of what we're looking at. So how does the committee want to move forward from here? We've got 6 pretty, we got 3 obviously that we're received higher scores than the other three, but those 6 kind of stand out. I just have some issues with the history of the group that uses the disc golf course, and I would hope that the city starts collecting fees from them, since the city's going to take on improving some of that, and make it really usable and user friendly, in cooperation with everything else that goes on up at Art. I just hope they start collecting fees. But yeah, those 6, stand out higher than the other ones.
So how much money do we have to know what the budget is for what we can hope for?
We don't know yet.
Do we have a guesstimate or what's been in the past few years that we could at least put together a projected plan?
Oh.
I think Camden brought up that the ranges anywhere from 3.5 million to over 5 million, depending on who you talk to.
And there were predictions that it was going to go way down this year, but it didn't happen yet. That there's concern about future years. Yes, people bought a lot of bottled water this year and toilet paper, but people aren't buying brand new cars and things like that. So,
Lisa, I'm trying to find that. Camden did send an email to the committee. I think it's usually between 1.1 to 1.3 million. I think he said we've been on like a 60-40 to 70-30 historically split of Parks and Rec and then arts. And then we've allocated $350,000 to Art Dye. And so I think that left like 400,000, but that's just a rough remembrance of his email. So let me see if I can find it, or if anybody else.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was talking total amount in the fund, but yeah, that sounds right.
So I'm quick guessing, this year looking at like, if budget came in like it is, maybe 300 to 400,000 above what's already going to Art Dye.
and when you're looking at the percentage of the population in that area, don't just look at the percentage, but look at the demographics. Look at the age of kids that are in the area, and you could recommend a certain type of park to start out with. And then that would be money saving and looking to the future for adding on in future years as those kids grow up.
Right.
Looks like you'd have a good plan.
Hey, Scott, sorry, real quick, found it. So he said estimated 1.3 million, about 60% goes to Parks and Recreation, which would be 780,000. Of that, 350,000 towards Art Dye. So it leaves about 430,000 for this coming year. It's not set in stone, but he just wanted to give us some good context of historically and what we're looking at. Does that answer that, Lisa?
Yeah. Am I on mute? Oh no. Okay. Yeah, that does, because in looking at some of these that ranked pretty high, Art Dye Phase 3, the parking lot and dog park, 200,000, Pickleball Courts, 125. So that's 325. So we have about 100,000 ish left. So you could do the playgrounds. You could do the top 3, or I guess you could knock out one of the top 3 and maybe pick up something that ranks 6, those 6 points on the top 3.
Yeah, clarification, Derek, is the 350,000 going to Art Dye, is that the final payment on the bond?
No, it runs concurrent with the park tax. There's still a couple years left on that.
Okay. So technically, if the dog park and parking lots funded along with the concurrent payment on the bond, Art Dye's getting almost 500 or over 500,000, right?
Yeah, correct. Yep.
So one other thing that Weebit, what is that? Aqua Climb for the pool? What is it?
So that is one. It's two features. One, it's like a rock wall on the side of the pool, so the kids climb up it and then they fall off and fall into the pool,
Like Lehigh Outdoor?
like
kind of?
Lehigh Outdoor. Yep. So
Okay.
that's Aqua Climb, and then the Wibbit is that blow up thing, like the blow up obstacle course that you run and you jump over things and you climb through
That Linden has.
things.
Well, they have the leap pad or the chain. They're chained to the bottom of the pool and then you run across them.
Yeah, it's a little more it's a little more involving than that.
Okay.
But it's like what you see out in the water, like if you've been up past Deer Creek or Jordanelle, those yellow,
Oh, yeah.
green things.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I guess I know it didn't maybe rank as high as the other ones, but for 20,000, it would seem like all of AF could benefit from that by coming to the pool. And if by some chance it's really visible, the pool, a lot of people, go to the pool. It would be nice to have park tax sign on those. So maybe somehow we could fit that in. It seems pretty reasonable and fun and new.
Our guy, phase 3 got high marks. I do think it is important to comment and I mean, this was kind of an initial poll without discussion, and that's why we're having our discussion. I think that it is really important what you mentioned, Scott. This is 200,000 on top of 350,000 on top of Art Dye getting 350,000 for how many years? That's a lot going to Art Dye. That is a ton going to Art Dye. And I think we as a committee should look at that and maybe reevaluate that.
Yeah, I know the importance of Art Dye, but it's a really, really concentrated area at different parts of the time of the year.
To me, it seems like that one probably should be ranked lower based off.
We're having a hard time hearing you, Peter.
Yeah, you're breaking up pretty bad.
I'd like to hear from the rest of the committee members, because obviously a lot of people voted for that with Art Dye, and it was the number one item voted on from the committee. I'll tell you what, it wasn't my number one, but obviously it was with several committee members, and I'm not advocating for it one way or another, but
We'll move to the house.
yeah, Scott, I think that was discussion from all the committee members would be helpful to staff as we kind of go forward. I think it's not saying south of the freeway is not important. I think it's, kind of looking at bang for the buck. How can we best impact and serve the residents of American Fork? And if you look at what's happened at Art Dye since that's been created, thousands of people a night are able to go there for many, many different activities. And so I think it's kind of balancing that. We need to address the south, but where are a lot of our residents gathering? So I guess as an end user is kind of how I've approached this. Jason more the maintenance, Camden helping to lead the vision. We bring a lot of people to that park, so I think that's why it is probably popular on the list. But the input from the whole committee is very helpful.
Well, I don't know if I realized that we still had the 350K ongoing going to Art Dye. I didn't know how many years of that do we have left, Derek?
2, I think.
Yeah, it's probably 2.
Beyond this year, or this year and one other?
I believe it's this year and 2 more.
Okay. And what is that money going to be used for? Because most of Art Diet is complete now. What are the phases or the rest of things that need to be done that money's earmarked for?
Yeah, so what the city is, we use park impact fees, capital improvement monies, and then we bonded, or we're using these funds to pay back the improvements that have been made. So we basically said for the next X amount of years, we'll use that funding to pay for the improvements so that we can use it now. The option was like save the money and do the project in 5 years, or allocate the money now, do the project now, and then pay it back over the next 5 years so we can use it.
Right. So,
okay. Yeah, I remember that now. Thanks for clarifying that.
yeah, so that's where the 350 is going on an ongoing basis until that's paid back. And then the extra 200,000 that I see here is to fund or partially fund the parking lot and the dog park. And I knew that when I voted, and the Art Dive Phase 3 dog park and parking lot wasn't in my top 4 because of that. I mean, I'll throw that out there.
Well, I love that the pickleball courts got a lot of responses. Those have been so popular and something that certainly will be used wherever they put those in. So I love that those are on there. So yeah, I'm happy with that.
And that, yeah, and the pickleball courts were in my top 4. I agree with the pickleball courts, and you know, I think the playground equipment's one of those safety things that needs to be addressed. And I have the trail expansion in my top 4, and
Okay, but
Yeah, I had a trail expansion in my top 4 too, but knowing it would just be a portion, because I knew that was the only way that's going to get funded is if we do it in small chunks.
right.
So yeah, that was one of my 4 as well.
If we made pickleball courts, playgrounds, and trails, and again, I've already expressed my opinion. I think trails should be that 100,000 towards that trail should be number 1, and it was last year for the whole committee as well. If we did that, then we could pick up, leave out Art Dye that already has received, I think it's $3.5 million, right, in the bond. Leave out Art Dye, then we would have money for the Aqua Climb for pool. I mean, we'd have money left over for some of these smaller ones that might not have got as high of a vote, but maybe also because they were smaller ticket items.
Right. The benches along the trails or along sidewalks are great. I mean, people use them, and then they have the park tax emblem on them. So I like those. And that's a small money item.
perhaps I missed the email. Where, and maybe this has already been answered, where are the pickleball courts going to be built?
The ones that we're talking about are kind of close to the railroad tracks. Help me with this, northern people.
Hindley Park.
Henley Park, right?
Yeah, it's close to Henley Park.
I see, even on cold days like today, all the pickleball courts in Orem are just packed.
Yeah.
So pickleball is incredibly popular. I think you would benefit a lot of people by making the pickleball court a priority.
And to clarify on the pickleball courts too, that cost amount, Derek, if correct me if I'm wrong, but that would fund like the amount that's shown there on that table would probably fund about 3 pickleball courts.
Yeah.
That
Based
was
on the
that was
prices we're seeing, that's what we're thinking.
Okay. Derek and I have also pushed around the idea of possibly some pickleball court at Rotary Park, right next to the horseshoe pits. There's an old basketball court there. Might be a good option. I do worry about the neighbors a little bit. But we're also looking at, like you said, Hindley Park, between the parking lot and the railroad tracks. One issue there is you want your courts to face north and south and not east and west because of the sun. So these would face east and west. And so not a deal breaker, but you just want to make sure they're done right. Rotaries would be facing the same way, but we do have a lot more trees there and shade to mitigate that. So,
Well, they would be facing north and south and Henley, wouldn't they?
no, they'd be east and west.
Oh, they would be? Okay.
Yeah. Which, I mean, like I said, it's not a deal breaker, but it is a concern. You know, you want the people that are there at 7 a.m. when the sun comes up over the hill that could be an issue for an hour or so. And that's usually a big time when people are out playing.
So they don't have room to put them in the other direction there, huh?
Not in that spot, no. Not in that particular spot. I even thought about, well, maybe we could put them out in the grass, but then it would go into the soccer field that is used there. So.
Yeah, so I think we've come up with a top 3 or 4 that includes the trails and drops the art dye phase 3 off the dog park and the parking lot. What's everybody, let's get some input from all the committee members. What's everybody's feeling about maybe pushing art dye down to 5 or 6 and then having the top 4 be the trail, pickleball courts, playground, and yeah, go ahead.
Can I just ask a quick question on art dye? And Jason, maybe this is for you. The parking lot, I would guess, is the larger expense, or is the dog park the larger expense? And do they both have to be done together?
The parking lot would be the larger expense, and that would be parking lot on your west side of the ball fields, wrapping around to the north, and then the parking lot on the east side continuing to the north and wrapping around. My personal feeling, I think that needs to happen before the dog park, because I think just looking at it, I think that would have to happen first before you do another dog park there, just so we have adequate parking. Parking is a big concern of mine up there with all the different events and soccer and ball games going on. I think parking is going to be at a premium up there.
And we want to protect our fields. We'd rather have them park on asphalt.
Yes. But I think once Derek is programming those 5 fields up there and soccer is going on, and people are there for disc golf and for the trail, parking is going to be at a premium and very much needed up there.
How much is a dog park?
Depends what you want to do.
Okay.
I mean, you can, certain things that need to go into a dog park. There's transition zones, so you have to pour cement. You got to have adequate fencing, and really, there is a need for a dog park up there, and it's hard to understand unless you go up there and see what all the dogs are doing to the soccer fields and
doing
doing their thing. But like I said, it's hard to nail down a number. You can do a walking path around it. You can put different amenities in there for the dogs, or you can just put a fence up and some grass and call it good. So I don't know the number on that.
Okay. I just didn't know why they logged them together, parking lot and dog park. And I didn't know if you could do part of it, like you said, a fence, and then add in, or if it's too hard once a fence is in to then add in concrete and get it through.
It is.
Yeah.
You kind of have to do some things before others.
Okay.
So.
And I don't know if you guys are seeing, our meeting is like the city council meeting. We're getting some chats. Alex wants to see Art Dye finish twice. But I don't know, is everybody seeing that?
Scott, that's Rosanna, I believe.
Oh, is it?
And so she's casting 2 votes for Art Dye. I'm going to speak for her.
Right.
Okay. I'm just going to say something. I work up at the developmental center, and unless the dog ordinance is enforced, nothing's ever going to change. I see people with hunting dogs that basically pull up in a truck, let their dogs jump out of the back, and then the dogs are running herd in the bushes trying to catch a rabbit and kill it. And that happens like every day of the week. And I mean, I guess I could call, but I doubt whether an officer is going to come up and ticket this guy or these guys that do this. And it's not the same person all the time. It's just it's one of those entitlement things where people with dogs just feel like they can do pretty much anything. And saying that a dog park's going to take care of that, I think is really, really erroneous until there's, it's dealt with in a punitive manner.
Well, and this I'm talking about is to actually address the need, and I agree with you on that, but address the need at Art Dye. I've had police officers call me and say, hey, isn't that dog park completed on the south end of town? And I'll say yes. And he says, well, we've got 40 dogs up here right now running off leash on the ball fields. And so, and my goal for a dog park up there would be make it as big as possible to make people want to come to a large dog park there, where they can take them off leash. We see it all over town at every single park, people with dogs. So I do agree with you on that.
Can I ask a quick question? Sorry, this is random. At a dog park, if you have dogs all off leashes and dogs get into it and hurt another dog, are we responsible at all for that?
I do not believe so. I think that it's your own risk of, you recognize the risk of having your dog in a dog park with other dogs off leash. Dogs are required to, or owners are required to have dogs that are not a danger to themselves or for others, or they shouldn't be there. But I might be wrong on that, but I think you're assuming your risk when you go to a dog park and let your dogs run.
You'd think that you really would. I just wondered if it
Yeah.
was a risk, if we put money into doing something like this and then we're at risk as well.
Jason's right. It's an assumed liability. We build it safely. We sign it similar to a skate park. When you enter that facility, you kind of are saying, I recognize the risks of being here.
Okay. And I only say that because of what happened with disc golf as well. Disc golf is over there and people just walking got hurt, So I didn't know when we say improvements for disc golf, is that to put up some netting in front of a trail or something like that? Or what improvements on the disc golf?
They're moving, the city's gonna move some of their holes around so they don't cross the trail that the guy was on. And I mean, I think it would involve some safety netting also, but most of it, I think, is to move the holes so they don't, so people aren't throwing the discs across the trails. Is that right, Jason?
Yeah, that's right. We're
Yes.
just eliminating those conflict points, moving
Yeah.
tee boxes and holes.
Yeah, there's going to be some vegetation clear to accommodate for new holes. There'll be some vegetation clearing and some new routes for those holes. Yeah, so we've had a couple of instances. One became very public, and then another one was just one that I got the phone call about. So, yeah, people are getting hit as they walk down the trail with discs.
Coming kind of to Scott's comment, if you did do a dog park in Art Guy, would the city be able to enforce the non-dog park portions any better? Otherwise, you might just be attracting a lot of dogs, and then they'd be happy to be in the dog park. They'd be happy to be wherever else as well, and just do their business, whatever they were going to do.
I can speak to that a little bit just from Orem's experience. Orem has a dog park that is very rarely used. Like, you could go there and odds are that no one will be there. It is kind of in a bad location. It's up at Timpanogos Park. But what we've seen with Orem is that people, even if there's a dog park, people will still take their dogs to their closest park to where they live. They're not going to travel across the city. Now, where Art Dye Park is a heavily used park, I believe that having a dog park there, it would be a heavily used dog park. But you're not going to get people that live clear on the west side driving all the way across. They're still just going to use the park closest to their house.
Yeah, I think that's why the dog park out at Easton Park works, is there's a large population, and that is the closest park, and a dog park's been provided. Where the population's more sparse up around Art Dye, there's no large high density housing projects up there. I just agree. I don't know how many people are going to travel to the dog park for the purpose of using a dog park up at Art Dye. I think they'll bring their dogs with them to sporting events and other things that are going on up there, like they always have. Whether they'll actually take their dog to the dog park to take care of business or actually use one of the dispensers that's up there all over Art Dye and grab a baggie and pick it up is questionable. Unless it's enforced.
And that has come up for him too. I used to be over Nielsen's Grove. There's a pond with ducks, and people would just bring their dogs and let their dogs kill the ducks. As shocking as that sounds, that was unfortunately a frequent occurrence down there. And even in those situations, we would call the animal control officer, and it never seemed, maybe it's different with AFPD, but it never was a priority for the police. There obviously were more important things than enforcing dog regulations.
Anyway, I think we can debate the effectiveness of dog parks and whether they be used or not. But dealing with this, I know we got one for sure that wants Art Dye completed. And I don't know, with limited amount of money and then the somewhat predictable actions of the park tax committee, we're going to be tossing one out for the other. And so I don't know if we want to mull the results of this over and, talk to people in our areas. I don't know if we want to wait and get a definitive percentage of population down from the south side. I don't think this needs to be a south side versus the rest of American Fork City. I think we need to look at the overall projects, and I still think the replacement of the playground equipment is a safety issue that needs to be on there. It's one of those things I don't think we can drop. I also see pickleball is important. I see the trail expansion is important. And I understand that people just want to get art dye done and finished with. So it's not, doesn't come up in these discussions anymore. On the other hand, it's like, I don't know, it's like having it's almost like a venue in and of itself, art dye. And it's central to everything that goes on in the city. And no matter how much parking you put in there with the room that we have, parking is going to be a problem because there aren't really any other usable baseball fields with parking around them in American Fork. It has all of the soccer fields except for one or two, maybe three that are used, but that's where almost all activities happen. And I can see that being a benefit. I can see it being a detriment to the city. So I've got mixed feelings at this point in time. I can see the parking lot. I don't have a problem. It's a decision the committee needs to make.
I think Art Dye has had, it was already the city's largest park. We added 3.5 million to it in a bond. I think it's complete. I don't know that it needs another third phase. As parks are made other places, just like you kind of mentioned, Scott, it's going to take pressure off of Art Dye. We don't need to make Art Dye the park that everybody in the whole city has to come to for any type of recreation. It just doesn't make sense. Make other opportunities more locally close by. It avoids traffic issues. It avoids congestion. It avoids the problems. Art Dye can be done. I don't think it needs that phase 3.
Well, I hope everybody feels comfortable making comments. At some point we've got to vote, and I'm not going to be offended if anybody disagrees with me. And I obviously know other people, committee members, have stronger feelings about Art Dye than maybe Peter or I or other members do. But we need to pretty much have an open discussion to come up with something that we can somewhat agree on, a prioritized list that we can agree on to send to the park tax committee.
Well, I don't think it has to be one or the other when it comes to like the trail expansion that we want to do on the south side. I think we could have that be one of our top 4 portions that we submit, along with the playground improvements, the pickleball courts, and we could still do the dog park. We could still finish up Art Dye. That could still be one of our top 4, and we're still getting our trail, our playgrounds, our pickleball courts. So those, for me, that'd be my vote, those top 4.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm good with that.
Me too.
So is there a specific order you want those for? Any suggestions? Do we want to put the trail expansion as number one and then pickleball courts, art dye? And I don't know, I put the trail and the playground equipment as 1 and 2. I mean, there's still the safety issue. And I think even if we, I honestly think if we didn't put the playground equipment replacement on there, either the citizens park committee or the city council would put it on there.
As a safety topic we haven't talked about that probably deserves being talked about, that trail that there's that frontage road. My family has ridden bikes, and I've seen other people doing it. There's not a good safe sidewalk right now, and during good portions of that, we are forced onto the road. It's a frontage road. It's not super busy, but there are cars that we have to that have to go around us essentially. And there's a major safety issue that we haven't talked about related to that trail. So I think that is another case that just hasn't been discussed that elevates the case for that trail even more so.
Well, those are talking points that can be taken to the park tax committee when we propose that as one of our prioritized projects. I mean, I agree with that. My kids are all grown now, but we used to ride around that way too. And yeah, there's no lines on either side of the road to define where a car needs to stay and where there's room to ride a bike or walk. Anyway, so back to the list of 4. How do we want to prioritize those?
Did you guys see Rosanna? So maybe we all just say, but Rosanna said art dye, pickleball playground, then trails.
Okay.
Okay.
My vote would be trails, pickleball playground.
What's your 4th, Nathan?
Probably something at art dye, the parking lot.
Yeah.
We take turns. I could go. Mine would be trail, playground, pickleball, and then just because I feel like art dye has received so much support already, and it's taking away from other things that need support as well. I would vote for other smaller type of things like was discussed, the $20,000 for the Widget, I believe it was, for the pool, maybe some shades, some of those smaller topics, some of those smaller items is what I would vote for.
Okay, and then just so you know, Rosanna added no dog parks.
Yeah, I think I'd be on for that right now anyway.
Yeah.
For me, I think I would put trails just so that the south side has adequate access to a park, to a city park that we maintain. And I agree about playgrounds. I think the city should probably take care of that, although I love them. And so if needed, I'd love to help, but I would too. I'd probably go trails, definitely pickleball. And then I'm the same. I'd love to see some of these smaller ones where, especially coming up on a park tax voting year. Is it next year or is it the year after next?
Yeah, these projects would be for next year's park tax funding.
But the park tax
no,
won't hit the ballot again for a while, will it?
Oh, park tax, to get the renewed park tax ordinance. Yeah, that comes up in 2 or 3 years. It was 8 years, and honestly can't remember how many years ago that was.
I think
Derek,
it's been 4.
oh, it's been at least 4. I think we have 3 years and then it's up for renewal.
That sounds
I think
right.
it started in 2014. So that would put us 2022.
Yeah, so a couple years.
Okay. Well, if we don't show some things, I think that are visible to people, I think we'll lose emphasis on getting that parks tax renewed. But I think the pickleball is great. So I'd put pickleball up there.
Lisa, I'm sorry that I'm the voice against art dye, but another topic on that, I think you're absolutely right. If everyone looks at the park tax and sees all the an overwhelming benefit went just to art dye, they're going to be less inclined to vote for that again. They want to see things, they want to see more than just a super concentration of that tax. I can't remember his name. When I first got on the committee, he was on the committee, and he said it very wisely. He said, I think people would have voted differently for this tax if they realized it was an art dye tax.
I think that was Ferris, but I'm not.
Yeah, that was Ferris.
That was
Yeah,
Ferris.
I'm pretty sure that was Ferris. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was Ferris, you're right. So I think there's a lot to be said about that. If we want this park tax to continue, and I think we do, I think we also need to vote in a way that people will want to continue it.
I think pickleball is a huge hit. You're going to have a lot of success, and it's going to be super popular.
And that will be in a different part of the city, so that's good. I got to go with trails number 1, probably pickleball number 2, the upgraded playground equipment number 3, and then just for the sake of the soccer fields and other grassy areas of art dye, I would support the parking lot portion of that.
And Scott, I agree exactly with what you said. My vote's for exactly what you said in the same exact order.
And I agree with Rosanna, no dog parks.
Yeah, we can put that off for now.
So I don't know where that puts us. I think got a top 2 maybe between art dye and the trail with what people talked about. I think the trail comes up, but I think that's our top 4. The 4th one's kind of hard because I see the benefit of maybe letting our dye go another year without either. I'm just concerned with the soccer fields and then having everything going on up there, including more than likely a full tilt City of Fun, Steel Days, big show, fireworks, all going on up there. There's not additional parking, and if we can't convince, or the city can't convince the Steel Days committee to shuttle people from the high school or whatever, those fields will be ruined anyway.
Yeah, they will.
And
we don't always protect what we work so hard to get. So I really put a plea out to the city and to Barbara, to you specifically, to take back to the mayor, he is in charge of it all. And I hope that he will protect what we've put a ton of money and time into, knowing that it takes a long time to get money to do some of those things. And last year, I don't know that they really supported not parking on it. Thankfully, Corona happened, maybe a blessing of Corona, but
Yeah.
hopefully they'll look at that.
Now, would the parking lot be big enough to replace all of that parking, or would we do the parking lot and then still have to potentially park on the lawns?
With Steel Days, they would do Steel Days. They need a plan. They need a combination of parking. There's with the additional parking lot, there'd be more room to park up there. But during Steel Days, where they have all of those events up there, especially on that one Saturday, they would need to still have shuttles running people from the high school up to our die.
And that's what I thought too. That's what I was thinking too. But so that would mean that the parking lot still might not protect the lawn unless we commit to the shuttle. We have to commit to the shuttle either way.
During that one event, it's my opinion, yes, they still need to use some kind of shuttle system.
Scott, if I could just note on Art Die, I mean, it might be another good conversation. I think it's going to be a continued conversation. Just to be careful, that facility is designed, and in order for that facility to operate at maximum capacity, that phase has to be done as far as the parking and things. So I don't think that's what the committee is saying tonight, but that would be changing the master plan of that facility, which that parking is needed to be able to fill all the soccer fields, baseball fields, things like that. So that would be a big decision to say, you know, we need to do that phase no matter what. It's just a matter of when and how we're going to fund it for that facility.
Right.
What's the allotted money? The 350 that's already allotted. What's that going towards?
To pay off the bond.
Oh, it is just to pay it off. Okay.
Yeah, it's just the payment on the bond. Okay, so I think Melissa's documented. Yeah, one vote for pickleball to be number one. Anyway, I think Melissa's got the documented prioritized list of our top 4 right now. Let's see if we can't come back with a more defined cost for just the parking lot expansion for completion up at Art Die separate, and take the dog park off, because I don't see that any of us really supported the dog park up there right now. And in our January meeting, which would be January 13th, we can finalize this, and I'm pretty sure they'll have the master plan and the map. Well, the map's done, but we'll be able to vote and put those forward to the city council. But we can just finalize the list and then come up with talking points that we think would benefit the park tax committee understanding of why the trail's important, you know, why Art Die is important, why the replacement, and why pickleball courts are important to the fund, and go from there. Because I would like to see, you know, how much the predictable cost of just doing the parking lot would look like. And I know these were rough figures on everything on here, but it'd be nice to pull those 2 out and just have the parking on the estimated cost. Everybody good with that, or do we want to vote tonight?
I'm good with it. And I'd really love our input to go to Jason and to Derek and to Camden. And I think they know too what needs to be done.
All right. Is everybody else okay with that? Melissa, Peter, Nathan?
Yeah, sounds good with me.
Good with that.
All right, so we'll listen to a motion. Okay, and the next meeting, our regular meetings before we started this weekly meeting to get the master plan done, our regularly scheduled meetings were the second Wednesday every month at 6. I don't know, Wednesday 6 on Wednesday 6 works better. I'm not saying I won't do 8, but that's something that we kind of came up with during the flag football season. Started meeting right in the middle of that and went through the playoffs, pretty much having to meet it at 8. What's everybody's feelings about the time of the meeting?
Either time works for me.
Okay.
I personally like 8 p.m. That's just my personal. It is towards the end of the night and get kids squared away before that for me.
Rosanna just said 8 as well. I agree 8 is nice for kids, but I see Derek still at the office making big bank on overtime, I hope.
The state doesn't give overtime. I don't know about the city. I'm on the state end of things. And things are tight anyway.
We'll be there whenever you do it.
We got 2 8s and a whenever and a 6. It's all on you, Melissa. I'm just kidding.
Melissa
I think
dropped off.
Melissa left.
Oh, did she? Okay.
It went past our time.
Okay. What if we tried 7? I know it's earlier than 8, and it's later than 6, but I agree. I mean, the city employees that support us and attend this meeting, I take into consideration their needs too. Would 7 be okay as a good compromise?
Yeah, will Camden be able to attend, or is he going to have other conflicting meetings again often?
I'll verify that, but I believe he can do that. Tonight was kind of a one-off. I think he's been able to be pretty consistent. So
Yeah, and Rosanna just said 7's fine with her.
Okay, great.
And at some point in the near future, hopefully, we will actually be able to sit in a conference room together. And when that time comes, I'll bring donuts or something. Anyway. Okay, so we will plan on meeting at 7 o'clock on whatever date I said in January that was. 13th. Yeah, the 13th. January 13th at 7 o'clock. It'll be another Zoom meeting, as far as I know, as far as we all know. Do you have a motion to adjourn?
I can motion.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Everybody have a wonderful Christmas and a great New Year.
Good night, guys.
Night.
Thanks for all you do.
Yep.